Hi. I feel like now if there's not tears, there's going to be a huge disappointment. So anyway, I am Roger Kalis. I am the creative director at Leap Create. We're a people communications agency that specialises in employer brand, recruitment, marketing, and internal comms, of course. So here today to discuss our No Holding Back campaign, which was something we did with our partners CGI. CGI is, well, it's a very happy relationship that we have with CGI, and it was one of those companies who probably quite a few people think, what do they do? I've never heard.
Who are they?
Who are they? So David will hopefully share a bit more about who they are.
Mm-hmm. So CGI, we're one of the largest IT and business consulting companies in the world. We're Canadian, created in Canada, but for nearly 50 years in the UK, we've been shaping the world we live in via our tech solutions. Which is scary because not a lot of people know us in the UK, but we're a growing company here. Our commitment. So what we're here to talk about today is DE&I in the tech world, and our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion is unwavering. But despite those efforts, we found barriers preventing some of our partners, which is how we refer to our employees, CGI partners, from fully expressing themselves at work, and we wanted to do something about this.
How did I do at pretending that I forgot about the clicker and was supposed to advance the slides? I think I did pretty well.
Yeah, probably better than me.
Seamlessly. I've got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all good. So with this brief that we had from David around diversity and inclusion, it was very much about the power of conversations. And as Andrew just spoke about DEI, a hot topic at the moment, and when David came to us with this, we knew that we had to do something that was different and go beyond the expected. And what I always say to our creative teams is don't reach for the obvious. So that's what we're always looking for, those ideas that go beyond what's expected. When we did this project, we started with all the usual things you could imagine. There's internal surveys and lots of external studies that we had to work from. But what we found most useful with this was conversations with people. So taking CGI partners, as they call them, and having really in-depth conversations. And it was those human stories that formed the starting point of this idea. With those conversations, we then did what we call, so one of the things that we like to do at Leap Create is we have a thing called the Agile Creative Squad. So the first thing that we did, have those real life conversations, and I've done a lot of interviews in my time with people, and they're generally 30 minutes. You can imagine the sort of answers that you get almost before you've conducted the interview. But this was different because we spent probably a couple of hours with each of the people who were going to appear in our stories, and it got really in depth, and they really shared some quite emotional things about their inner thoughts and what they really thought. So it went way beyond just the usual type of employer brand interview that you might get. And we took those things into our next stage, which is what we call our Agile Creative Squad. So the Agile Creative Squad is something, a trademark, Leap Create, by the way. But this is about how we challenge briefs. So as a creative person myself and having a team of creatives, I realised that good creatives will do their research. So they'll be, it's all about empathy, putting yourself in the mind of the position that you're trying to communicate with. But at the same time, everyone can't be an expert on everything. And the best in my career, the best ideas that I've worked on are where you've really immersed yourself in the subject matter. So we did work with the police in a former life and went out on patrol, pretty much joined the police to really understand it and get those stories. But when you've got a brief in front of you as a creative, you can't do that every time. So what we do is we've created this thing called the Agile Creative Squad, where we get experts in on that subject matter to work with the creatives and the client so they can inform the ideas as they are happening. It's something that we found incredibly successful. So think of it as kind of like Avengers Assemble, but we don't have the trademark for that, obviously. So we took that brief and gathered those insights, again, taking the external and internal stuff, and from that we came out with some threads. And one of the good things we like to try and do as well is, as a creative agency, you often find that your ideas are sort of subject to the big reveal. So, they give you a brief, you go away, you lob it to the creatives, or in this case, we have our Agile Creative Squad, and then you come back and there's like the big reveal, and it's like, oh, this one's the safe one, this one's the wacky one that shows that we're creative, but you're not going to go with it, and then there's the banker that we think you will go with. So we've all experienced that, but we kind of want to try and avoid the big reveal, the big ta-da moment, and prefer for clients to actually be in on the process of coming up with the ideas too. So they're in on the journey. So David, maybe you can talk to how the experience was for you.
Yeah. So as a client, it's really insightful to be part of that, and some of the situation, the approach that Roger just described, the big reveal. That's how we used to work. But I think going along that journey and seeing how the creative minds tick, and seeing people from different backgrounds come together and hearing their ideas is really important. And it led to sort of ideas and concepts that came, the resulting concepts that really challenge your thinking. My thinking, our thinking as an organisation, our identity, sort of, would we typically do that campaign? And I think when you're just presented with something, the big reveal, it's quite easy to shoot it down, whereas you get more attached when you've been part of it and see where the people are coming from with the ideas, and it sort of just pushes your thinking slightly out the box. So, yeah, really, really great to be part of, and sort of, as you'll see, the idea that they did come up with.
We came up with.
Yeah, we sorry, yeah. Doing myself short a disservice there. It really aligned perfectly in the end to sort of what we were trying to achieve, and I think CGI as an organisation, despite being slightly different from what we may have done in the past.
One of the things to mention is that, as I think I skipped through it in my previous slides when I was faffing about with the clicker, was that CGI are an organisation who actually do diversity and inclusion really well. They can really back it up, but we found out this story wasn't being told. So if you went on the website, it was a fairly standard diversity and inclusion page with the kind of stock shots that you might get if you search for diversity and inclusion on iStock. But we wanted to sort of go a bit further. So what we found was that great stories to tell. It wasn't like they were being performative and trying to pretend that they did have all these great stories. They actually did. They just weren't being told.
Yeah. I noticed that we skipped a slide.
Yeah, it's my
no, I'm joking.
They might allow us to re-record it.
I know. I just wanted the sincerity behind this campaign and why we wanted to do it. There were a lot of voices in the business from our DE&I networks, and we've got some good established networks who have something to say, but that wasn't sort of getting out into the wider world. And I think from my point of view, I come at this from candidate attraction, wanting people to want to join the company and feel they're joining a safe place, but also for our people to feel valued and to, we're proud of their stories. We want to share them. We want to share their successes and sort of where they've come from to get to that place. So there's just a bit of background behind why we did this.
So to talk us back through the project, we had our internal and external research, we had the brief from David, we had the intent and the why behind this. Then we had our interviews with the various different people, stakeholders from across the business and members who are on the ground, took that to the Agile Creative Squad, and then from that came a number of different threads. So there was different threads that we could pull out and take this, and if you like, that's what gets presented back to the client, and at that early stage allows us to sort of decide which ideas to pursue. And the idea that we decided to pursue was one around diversity of thought. So we were thinking, what's a kind of common theme across whatever diversity trait might be, and we consulted closely with CGI networks. So they have 12 different networks that cover various different aspects of diversity. So we consulted closely with them, and one of the common themes that came across was this idea of this diversity of thought, and that people, it's a human condition to potentially have these kind of self-sabotaging thoughts, these inner monologue that can prevent you from being everything that you want to be. And our idea was, okay, well, how do CGI help quieten those voices? And from a diversity perspective, how can they do, and what do they do to support these inner monologues that you might have that mean that you're not good enough, the kind of imposter syndrome stuff. So that was the idea that we went with, and it was about making sure that everyone could feel included in this and feel heard. And from that came what we call the No Holding Back campaign. And the name had a double meaning because the idea was that there was no holding back in terms of your career, but there was also no holding back in terms of what people were saying, what they were prepared to share about themselves. No holding back in their inner monologue and the thoughts, the genuine thoughts they had that they would reveal to us. So that was the premise of the No Holding Back campaign. And what we did is we selected 3 people from the networks. And David, you can talk just a little bit more about who we chose.
Yeah. So Wendy, she's up on the screen. She is a black working mother. She's had 20 years experience at CGI and faced many promotional panels over the years. But her sort of inner worries about her background and tokenism, and they still fill her head, even though she's progressed quite far in the company. And in the video, she sits before a promotional panel, and you hear these thoughts out loud. And then we have Adam. So Adam faces a job interview where he tries to mask his struggles to keep eye contact as overlapping thoughts sabotage his interview. But then his disclosure of his ADHD and autism is welcomed as an essential part of his talent. And finally, we've got Liz. So Liz is a leader in our organisation. She's one of our senior VPs. But she still, to this day, battles nerves and feels she lacks the confidence of men who dominate the IT industry. She delivers a presentation, and at the end it reveals the high regard that she's actually held in.
So we have got one of the videos to show you now, and it's Adam's video, but before I do show it to you, I'll just share some of the conversations that we have with him and how you can see how some of the insights from our interview with him pulled through into the video. So one of the things that we didn't want to do was write an actual script for them to say, because then it becomes our words, not theirs, and they might feel a bit uncomfortable about saying it. So with the big interviews that we had, we found out lots of things, what they really think. And Adam was a really fascinating character because he had ADHD and autism, as David said, and his internal monologue consisted of 8 different voices, all of which were quite unkind, all accompanied by continually humming Pachelbel's canon in D minor, I think it is. But so he had that going on in his head, how he would break down his day into 15-minute chunks. So the process of going to the interview was really one of him thinking, I've got 15-minute chunks, it's going to be this much for that, and how he would break that down at the same time, the seam of his socks bothering him. So all of this stuff came out in our interviews, and we had to get that into the video, and then he would say these words and adjust them so they sounded, say it was him saying it. So it was a kind of scripted, unscripted script that formed the narrative, but probably best to show you. So here we go.
Hi, it's Adam Pickering. I've got an interview. Adam Pickering. Hi, it's Adam Pickering. I've got an interview. Right, 90-minute interview. So it's got to get through 45 minutes. That's 4. Hi, it's Adam 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes at the end, and then just repeat that. And then it's done. Back in the car. 10 minutes normal. I'm pretty sure at least. Last night before I went to bed, I can literally feel the seam of my sock running across my toes right now, and that is really uncomfortable. Play normal. Just be a normal bloke. Spicy green normal. This sock's really bothering us. It's just a poster, don't get your hopes up. Remember the last place they said they were inclusive as well. Right, let's get on with it.
Hi, you must be Adam.
Hi.
I'm Mark, nice to meet you.
Adam Pickering.
Would you like to come with me?
Right, 5 questions in, and you answer every one of them. Just got to keep eye contact, keep the right eye contact.
Can you tell me about where you've picked up your skills in your career?
So, the skills I developed, I think, came out of the fact that I felt at home with a large data set.
And finally, if you can give me an example of when you've had to come up with a fresh perspective in order to overcome a challenge.
Right, just tell them I'd rather fail now. Look, I think I should say I'm neurodivergent. I've got ADHD and autism, but it is part of what makes us really good at what I do. So I thought I'd be open about it now because, well, if it's a problem, because the last place, they didn't understand.
I'm guessing you may have heard the line about being a normal zebra rather than a
A strange horse, yes. Yeah, I've stolen that a couple of times.
Well, we need all the zebras we can get. We can talk about things like our support networks and our flexible working and other practical things we can do just to make your life easier. I know it's difficult and it shouldn't be, but I'm really glad that you were able to share that with us.
Me too, really, me too.
Andrew, any tears this time? So as you can see, we took the insights that we got from Adam and turned it into one story. We did, you could probably tell, there was no actors in this. All the actors were actually people from CGI who agreed to participate, but they were kind of playing themselves in their own role. So but it's not as easy as you might think. And technically, it wasn't a simple thing to do. So having watched quite a lot of Peep Show and seeing how they did that with the first-person camera, we opted for this very heavy head cam. And the technical challenge was that we had to record these interviews with people ahead of time. So they were done in a studio, and that was their own words. So even little things, I'm not going to do any Newcastle accents, but even things like Adam saying this sock's really bothering us is not something that I would have ever written down, being from Wokingham in Berkshire. But Adam did, so that obviously goes into his script. So the words that he's saying are his own words, and he feels comfortable saying them. And what we did, recorded that in a studio, a number of different takes, chose the best one. And then on the day, it wasn't actually any more technical than him borrowing my earbuds, but we played it back through to him in real time while he was sort of acting out. So when he's like adjusting his sock and looking at it, he's like, oh, am I spoiling? Am I sort of letting people peek behind the curtain too much here? Maybe. But anyway, so that was being played to him, so he was able to act out these different parts. And then everyone else, as you say, was played by someone in CGI. So that was the way that it was done. And then as far as the results went, it went down really well. But the way that we delivered that message as well was across numerous different channels. I mean, David, what did we do?
Yeah, so it was a funnel approach, and this was a whole sort of looking at our wider DE&I message in the external market as well. So we created a landing page. There was accompanying social media campaign, and also the centerpiece of it was these videos in taking it to market.
And also with the landing page, what we did was invite other people to share their stories too, which got a lot of engagement, which was something that we particularly pleased.
And it's also offers us the opportunity to keep the drumbeat going and ensure that this isn't just a flash in the pan approach. We do more of it. We continue to share their stories.
So results-wise, it was successful in terms of the engagement and visits to the website and its reach across social media, which is all important stuff. And we were really pleased, as Andrew indicated, to collect some awards along the way. I always say that as if I haven't entered them. Of course, I have put together the entry, but it was good. And we got a couple of golds at the ICE Awards. And what was particularly nice was that both Adam, Wendy, and Liz were there on the table to collect the awards, which actually sort of made the whole thing, really nice. So the people who were involved were able to sort of share in the success of the campaign from the awards that it picked up. But I guess more important than the metrics, or not just as important, should I say, is the I guess it's the feedback that we had and the campaign engagement in terms of what people said and other partners at CGI, how they engaged with it, the comments that we got on LinkedIn with people who shared these experiences, but also organisations like the ADHD network who reached out and said, do you know what, if only every employer was as progressive thinking as CGI. So we had endorsement from organisations that some of the themes were touching on, which was particularly nice.
Yeah, and also likewise, the feedback that we received from our own partners was overwhelmingly positive. As I said, the objective of this was for those people in those networks that, they're all self-run by people in the business. It's not, there's not dedicated roles. These are doing this in addition to their day job, and they really felt seen and heard and valued, I think, in a way that they hadn't been before. So it wasn't just about being proud to work for CGI. It was that feeling of belonging, which we really want. It's sort of part of our talent brand and our values, and they can truly be themselves in a safe place at CGI. So it's great impact internally as much as selling us as a great place to work externally.
And we heard some personal stories afterwards as well, where it's going to sound like I made it up, but I haven't, where someone came up to me at one of the awards and said that it was Lizzie's story, who had this real imposter syndrome, and the videos are all online, you can go and see them all, but she's giving this presentation to a room of largely men. One of the things is that she likes to sort of wear all her own style, whereas it's a fairly, in some ways it's quite a formal organisation, but she has her own look, and that was something that she's worried about. She's worried about everyone else in the room is much more experienced than I am, but she gives this presentation, and it's about overcoming the thoughts that she has in her head. And someone came up to us and said that their daughter was having exactly the same thoughts. They showed her this video, and it really resonated in a way that was reassuring. So that was it's those sort of things that are really
and that's happened countless times with me as well. It's various usually talent brand events, but people have said they saw it and then they've shown it to someone else, and it's had that impact. So it's great, I think, from it's fulfilling its purpose beyond it's fulfilling its potential beyond its original purpose, which I think is brilliant as well.
Which sort of brings us on to this, and perhaps legacy is a bit overblown, but there is an idea that we didn't want this to be a one-off thing. So part of the brief with David was that we don't just want this to be a one-and-done thing. Talking to Pierre, who's one of the speakers earlier, about the idea of always-on campaigns, things that are there. You don't just do, everything obviously isn't a TV ad these days, so you've got to be constant, you've got to be current, you've got to be there. And we wanted something that would allow people to engage with, but also share their own stories that could then become future content, which is something that's happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just going back to the creative of the campaign, it was a significant step forward for CGI. I think it really made an impact and resonated in the market. Our journey on this isn't over, as Roger says. We'll continue to build on what is a very strong foundation, ensuring that diverse DE&I isn't just a tick box or flash in the pan. It's something that we're committed to, and it's central to the way in which we operate as an organisation. Having diverse, equitable, inclusive policies, approaches, and a workforce as well.
And creatively, one of the other things that I also say to the creative team as well is not reaching for the obvious, is about making creative leaps, and hence the name. So whereas it would have been easy to tell this story just in a fairly standard interview format and just ask people their experiences and do it that way, the creative leap in this instance was the first person. It was all about the inner monologue, the thoughts that you have inside your head that you don't necessarily express, but the things that you're thinking. So that was our creative leap. And CGI, it's a serious organisation. It's not, innocent smoothies or something like that. So it's a serious consultancy, but it did show that you were able to still do good, solid, creative.
But I also think with this campaign, yes, it's focused on diverse, equitable, inclusion audiences, but I think everyone has that inner monologue. We all have inner doubts, thoughts, sabotaging thoughts, so it's very relatable, which whatever your background, I think, and that was the key to it as well, which I think really made it land well with our senior people when we're trying to get something like this, which is a creative leap over the line. It can be a challenge sometimes, but they really bought into it, and obviously the results speak for themselves, I think. So.
Yeah, the problem I have is that my inner monologue is often my external monologue. So things like where's the clicker? I really should be kept as internal thoughts. But anyway, so thanks again to everyone for listening to our case study, and thank you, David, for joining me again on stage. And if you have any questions, then please don't hold back.
And do we have any questions? Yeah, there's a question at the back. Here we go. Again, if you can say who you are, your organisation, and then ask away.
Hi there, it's Ajay here from Quite Frankly Productions. Some of those insights were deeply personal with a lot of the people that you interviewed. How did you encourage them to be so public with them?
So I guess it was spending time with them. So first of all, obviously they knew what they were signing up for. They believed in what they were doing. So they were all part of a network organisation that this was what they were promoting. So whether that was the neurodiverse network or whether that was the women's network, they were buying into what it was and obviously had an interest in promoting that. Then it was really just about getting to know them. So as I'd mentioned earlier, rather than just a quick 5 minutes, hi, I'm Roger, so what's it like to work here? Oh, it's like a family here. Oh, is your boss really supportive? Yeah, they're really supportive, all of that sort of stuff. It was much more of a longer conversation, so we got to know them over a period of time. We weren't kind of duping them into sharing these stories. It just meant that we built rapport enough that they trusted us, and obviously David, who knows some of these people personally, was involved in that process.
And I think that speaks to the authenticity of CGI and sort of who we are as a company and our people. There is sort of a, I don't know what the word is, the informality in the way that we deal with partners, clients, suppliers, and there's a willingness there, and I think it just puts people at ease. We recently filmed something else just last week, didn't we, Roger?
Yeah.
And it's actually probably more personal story, even deeper stories than this, and I came away from that day feeling like, God, that was such an uplifting experience. It sounds a bit over the top, but you did feel in a very safe environment, and it made me actually quite proud to work for CGI again. I feel that every day, but it was a really good day. So I think it's there's truth in what we're sharing, and that for me is important. It's that authenticity, and I think it drops people's guard a bit. And feel sort of able to share these things.
Any other questions? There's one more. We'll make this the last one. You're not going to be disappearing. I used to be around for the coffee break.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So if there are any further questions, Roger and David will be here later.
Hi, I'm Stina from Davies. I was wondering, I think your 3 case studies, they were all based in the UK. Was this a UK-specific campaign, or was it global? And if it was just for the UK, why was it for the UK and not global?
It's purely because of the way we operate. The strategic business unit, so the UK and Australia weirdly is one, I just look after the UK myself, so that's why it was done for there. That said, it has been shared globally, and there's a lot of people my colleagues or counterparts across the globe really liked it and want to do something, have shown sort of a desire to do something similar, but it's all based on whether there's an appetite. But that's basically it.
The boring answer is we work with CGI UK.
Yeah.
If you want to take it global, come and see.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, David, Roger, thank you very much.